Yeah.
Okay, so it should be.
Yep, I see it recording.
You see it recording? Great. Cool. Okay. Okay. So we have here, so we know we've got some new folks attending their first webinar then, it sounds like, and we probably have a few folks back for another go. So that's fun. And we are really looking forward to this evening. I know Catherine and I are quite excited to hear Mary Jo and learn from her. And we are really glad to be able to share this opportunity with everybody who is joining us tonight too. I'll just start off with a few housekeeping matters and then we'll get into the webinar. We'll be going till about 9:30 or so, and that will include the webinar. And throughout that, you're also welcome to post questions, and we will try to get to those as well. Your questions, when you post them, will be confidential. So the host can see the login name, but nobody else who's attending the webinar can see who is posting. And we cannot see or hear anyone else as well. To post your questions, you can use, I think there are a couple different ways. There's a chat option. So you can post a question on chat, and there's a Q&A option. I believe that works as well. Is there a raise hand or something as well, Catherine?
Yeah, so
the chat and the Q&A, though, I think are good ways to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I see a raised hand.
And for the chat, so to make sure that you are confidential, if you aren't comfortable with people watching, you would just need to make sure that you change it to, and then you want to put the host name, so to Joy or to myself. If you leave it to all panelists, it'll come up. But that being said, for anyone watching it afterwards, no one will be able to see the chat panel. So that's what Joy was talking about. But yes, and then the raise hand is another way to get our attention if your questions aren't answered.
Yep, perfect. And I don't know about tonight's for sure, but we often have a mixture of both parents and professionals who attend these webinars, just so that everyone is aware of that. We have a broad audience joining us, and again, it's great to have people from all different roles represented. A copy of the webinar can also be sent to you afterward if you want to be able to review it again. So that is something you can get in touch with us and ask about after the fact. So you can feel free to just kind of relax and listen, and then you can go over it again in your precious spare time at another time if you want to go over it again or be reminded of all the wisdom that's going to be shared. So I think that covers most of the housekeeping issues. Catherine, is there anything else that we need to let people know before we get going?
Nope, you got it.
Okay.
Perfect.
So, all right, perfect. So we've got our intro slide here. It says attachment 1, because the good news is this is, we've decided this is part of a series. There's just so much information to cover and so much important learning to do. So this is just part 1, which is pretty cool as well. We're going to try and get into this topic as deeply as we can over a series of a few webinars. So we'll keep you posted about any upcoming dates. And our main speaker tonight is Mary Jo Land, and we'll go through her biography in a moment. And then I am Joy, and Catherine is with us as well, and we are provincial parent liaisons with Adopt4Life. Okay, so we've got, I've kind of covered a lot of that there, I think, all the housekeeping issues. And so Mary Jo is a registered psychotherapist who works in Ontario and has had a background doing a lot of pretty interesting, fascinating stuff. Her emphasis in private practice is on facilitating secondary attachment and resolving developmental trauma in children. And she also works with families who are touched by adoption with the Adoption Council of Ontario as a trainer for the Permanency and Adoption Competency Training Program, and is also on the Adopt4Life Mental Health Committee. and is an adoptive parent as well. And some of her other work involves working with children who've been affected by war in Canada and elsewhere in the world. So we are so thankful to be able to learn from Mary Jo tonight through this webinar.
Thanks, Joy.
Catherine and I are both adoptive parents. No problem, you're welcome. Adoptive parents. My husband and I adopted a sibling group of 3 little ones who arrived on the doorstep at ages 1, 2, and 3. So it's been quite an adventure for the past almost 7 years. I'm also an occupational therapist, and I spent over a decade working in inpatient adolescent mental health, which I really loved, and I learned a lot. And then parenting these past 7 years and learning so much more about attachment and trauma and all those other things have kind of brought my career and my personal life together in some really interesting ways. So I'm so glad to be able to work with Adopt4Life in this capacity where I get to draw on all of those experiences. Catherine is also a parent of 3 children, 2 of whom are siblings. And I know Catherine's got a busy household as well, and is learning every day as well, and living this experience. In Catherine's experience, Catherine has a lot of experience with openness and the foster to adopt process, and working with children and living with children with special needs of various kinds. And her background is a master's degree in critical disability studies and a bachelor of social work. So again, lots of really neat professional and personal experience that she brings to her work with Adopt4Life as well, which is fantastic. So that's us. All right.
Well
and I think at this point, there we go. So we have a bit of an outline, and I think, is this Mary Jo, where we're turning it over to you, or
I think so.
Do you want us to run through?
No,
okay, there you go.
So thanks, Joy, for the lovely introductions. I just wanted to just give us a brief overview tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about attachment as it normally develops. And I think we need to really understand the normal, typical process of adoption, of attachment, get my terms right here, of attachment before we can begin to understand what happens when it doesn't go well. So we're going to just do tonight we're going to really be talking about attachment as a mammalian innate process. That means that people who mammals are born with the capacity, and in fact the drive is a bit of the wrong word, but it's the closest I've got, to attach to their caregiver. So we're going to go through that normal process, and we're going to talk about what attachment looks like when it's healthy, and why it would become less healthy. And then we're going to talk about, when we go through that, we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about in the next webinars, because Adopt4Life was clever enough to do a survey to find out from people what it is that they really wanted to know about attachment. And there was so much that people wanted to know that we realized pretty quickly there isn't a chance at all that we could cover it in one webinar, and three would be kind of glossing over all of the topics that the people wanted to see. So we've really chosen to divide it down into 3 topics. And so I'm hoping that this is going to be a really useful series. What I'm going to show you now, next slide, please. Actually, you have control of the slide. So there we go. So we're going to talk about attachment, and the key word here is that attachment is about survival. Humans are mammals, and like all mammals, it's a live birth, and when we are born, we're pretty compromised in our ability to look after ourselves and survive. And of course, as you all know, that humans are the least able to look after themselves when they're born. And so attachment is really what gets the the lactating female that is near us, which was most likely the mammal that gave birth to us, to look after us and feed us and protect us. So that's the job of an infant. When an infant is born, it has these. When a mammal is born, it has these behaviors that it immediately starts to demonstrate, to enact, to make its caregiver look after it and feed it and protect it. So it is about survival, and I can't actually stress enough about how much it is about survival, because when it works well, we don't really think about it too much. It's when it doesn't work so well that we really have to think about that. If the system isn't working well, then this infant mammal is going to adapt its attachment behavior to suit the environment that it's in. So we talk about trauma, and we talk about developmental trauma when we talk about when things are going badly for an infant, infant human, and the caregiving system is failing it. The caregiving system isn't providing and meeting the infant's needs. So the infant will adapt, and the toddler will adapt, and it's adapting so that it can survive in that environment. And so it's adapting during the time when the brain is actually forming its connections. So a human infant is born with its brain structures intact, but the connections between the brain parts aren't there. That's why we can't walk when we're born. That's why we can't talk when we're born. All those connections need to form. So if the caregiving environment in those very early times is not really optimal, then the human infant has this amazing capacity to start adapting its attachment behavior repertoire so that it can survive in that environment. And those are the things that I really want to keep in mind. So we're going to really dig down deep tonight into what it looks like when it's actually a healthy and normal process. Typical process. The word normal is odd, but sometimes it is the right word. And normative, what usually happens. And then what we're going to talk about is thinking about that in terms of while the human infant is attaching to its proximal caregiver, so the lactating female that's closest to it, the one that's going to save it, look after it, protect it, and feed it. While that human infant is engaging in these behaviors, it also has some flexibility to adapt to something that's not working very well. And this is happening while the brain is laying down its connections. So not only is it about a behavioral repertoire, but that behavioral repertoire is actually one and the same as brain connections. So when we try to change it later, we're not changing behavior, we're changing brain connections. So that's why it's not, we can't change an attachment, change attachment easily. It has to be done over time and through experience. So that's kind of the overview. So let's go through that a little bit. So I'm getting let me move that over a bit. There we go. So here I am just making the comparison between humans and mammalians, and this is a chimpanzee. And this one here too is again a gorilla and humans. And you can see that our behaviors are very similar, very, very similar. And isn't that lovely? And so it's going to be a little bit odd today because I'm not going to show you a lot of words today. I'm going to show you pictures. And I'm going to show pictures because attachment is a process that happens in the midbrain, and parental bonding, and I'm going to separate the two. I use the word bonding for what parents do to children, and attachment is what children do for parents. And siblings bond to each other. Siblings don't attach to each other unless, of course, one sibling is being the parent. So, what I want to do is use pictures, because when you study a picture and you feel something, the picture is much more likely to get into the parts of your brain that are more closely associated with those parts of your brain that are responsible for bonding and attachment. So we're gonna use more pictures tonight. So can we just go back to the one before? Oh no, the one before for a little minute. So here we see. I want you to just look at the face of this human child, this little boy here, and I want you to just kind of feel what he is feeling. What he's feeling there, I might describe as absolute security, comfort, joy, love. He's very like calmly serene even, but obviously his feeling is very positive. You can see just the small hint of a smile. His parent there is looking down at him and obviously kissing him and watching for his responses and watching how he's responding to this interaction. And you can see over on the other side there, you can see it's not exactly the same posture, obviously, but you can see how close that mother is holding her infant, and you can see that I don't know, that infant might look a little bit frightened to me, but it's really hard to know. It's not exactly the clearest picture. But anyway, we want to really be thinking about, you can see how that infant is really holding on with the hand. The mother is gripping that baby tightly. There's a lot of protection there, but you can also see a real serenity in that mother's face. So we're really thinking about how when this works well, how there's this real close shared intimacy, shared states, shared state of mind, shared state of arousal. In both of these pictures, it's pretty calm. Shared state of emotion. And it's these shared states that happen thousands and thousands of times that lead to attachment. So let's just go to the next one. And that's why it's a little bit different than this one, because everybody's sleeping here. and that means that everyone's feeling very, very safe, that you can go to sleep. Oh, I think Mama Gorilla is awake. But my son and my grandson are obviously nicely sleeping. So the next one. So attachment is a lifelong process. That's me in the middle with my hair a little bit shorter. My daughter and my mother. And my mother is still alive, 93 years old. And that's my daughter who was born to me. And the attachment security that I experienced as a child is a hallmark of the way in which I parent. So my daughter has the benefit of a secure attachment with me because I have the benefit of a secure attachment with my mother. And so when we think about how does a parent respond to the attachment behaviors of their infant or their child or their toddler, a lot of that has to do with how they were parented. It's not a one-to-one relationship by any means. It's a weak correlation, but there is a correlation because a lot of things change in attachment style over the course of time. So some folks who didn't have a secure attachment as a child may have done some work, or they may have engaged in a relationship with an adult attachment figure. So my other attachment figure is my husband, and he's not in there. So my mother and my father, my husband are my attachment figures. And so attachment, and we have an attachment relationship with our partners because we seek comfort, we get our needs met in our relationship with our intimate partners as we did with our parents. And so then all of these things are translated into the way in which we parent our children. So when we're going to talk in probably the third webinar, we're going to talk about therapeutic interventions. And as a therapist, one of the things that I do is I talk with folks about what they feel their attachment history is like. How did they feel about their parenting? Did they feel happy, secure, well-loved, and unconditionally loved by their parents as they grew up? And if not, what did that look like, and then what have they done in the meantime to resolve what might be some insecurities or avoidance of intimacy that resulted from their experiences of being parented, and then how do we translate that into parenting in such a way to enhance a secure attachment style in your child. So that's why attachment is a lifelong process. We continue to think about it. I love watching my children parent their children, along with their new spouses and their spouses' attachment histories. It's very interesting to me. So next picture. Thank you very much. So again, this is my son, David. And that's actually not his daughter, that's his niece. But they are really, truly enjoying each other. That's my granddaughter. And what I want you to pay attention to here is I want you to pay attention to the face-to-face, eye-to-eye contact, interaction, enjoyment that these two are having. You can see that he's making a face shape with his mouth, and she is gazing very intently at his face. And I think if we could really pinpoint where she's looking, I think she's looking at his mouth, and she's doing something with her mouth, and she's starting to imitate. So he's making some sounds, and she's starting to imitate. She's about 4 months old right there. And she's engaging in this face-to-face, mind-to-mind, heart-to-heart, emotion-to-emotion, connected and enjoyable interaction with her uncle here. And so she's able to do that. She knows him well, for one thing, but she's also able to do that because she's 4 months old. And so one of the things that I want to point out is that in the first few months of life, attachment is pretty transferable. So over the course of our human development, attachment has, we don't always survive childbirth. So one of the survival strategies of the attachment system is don't be too picky in the first little while. Your parent might die, your mother might die. So it's good to go for anybody who's really good at looking after you in those first few months of life. So we do find that if human infants can transfer a good attachment in the first few months of life, and that they might not be as specific, they will become extremely specific by 1 year of life, but in the first few months of life, they can transfer that experience to other good caregivers. So what we're seeing here in the first few months, the first 2 to 3 months before they're born, and in the next 3 to 6 months after human infants are born, what they're doing is they're really developing a sense of trust, a trust in their caregiver, trust that their needs are going to be met, trust that when they exhibit an attachment behavior such as beginning to cry and fuss, that their caregiver will come, that their caregiver will know what their need is, and that the caregiver will accurately meet that need in a very timely and responsive way, and that very quickly their need will be met, and they go from a state of distress and very quickly call their caregiver with some attachment behaviors. That's crying, smiling is an attachment behavior, reaching out with their hands, crawling towards, seeking proximities. That's what that's called. And so what happens is that this baby and this human, they really develop a very, very, very close communication system that is heart to heart and mind to mind, that happens through thousands of repetitions of face-to-face contact like this, lots of touch, and reciprocal interactions of shared joy. So I'm going to say that again, and I don't know how many times I'd love to say that. It's reciprocal interactions of shared joy. Because we know that even if human infants get their physical needs met, if they get fed well enough, if they get changed often enough, if they are not in extreme pain, if they have their basics of physical needs being met, they still won't develop an attachment to the caregiver unless they have reciprocal experiences of shared joy. And so what we really are looking for in developing an attachment are those reciprocal experiences of shared joy. And so this is why I think this picture is so very, very important, is that's to remind us that it is these processes that the first thing that this baby is going to experience in life is I am okay, I'm safe, I'm not experiencing, in other words, I'm not experiencing a lot of negative physical experiences such as pain or hunger, but also I'm experiencing a lot of positive things in my life where I'm made to feel happy. And those aren't thoughts, those aren't words. That is, I spend the majority of my time in a positive affective state. And so the positive emotional states, in parts of my brain, the parts of my brain that are about happiness, that are about joy, that are about face-to-face interactions, that are about close human connections, those parts of my brain are getting stimulated a lot and growing a lot. Right? It's about brain growth here. It's about making those connections. So the verbal structures and the touch structures of my brain, they're getting really well closely connected with each other. The ability to regulate my body, my emotions, these are all getting connected and wired together in my brain during these interactions with my caregiver. I'm not spending time alone in my crib, crying in the dark with my diaper, giving me a diaper rash and I'm in pain, or alone in my crib with a bottle full of juice and my teeth are rotting, and every time I drink from the bottle because I'm hungry, my teeth are really hurting. So no, that's not happening. And so this child is developing a lot of trust here. So trust is the number one outcome of attachment. It's trust. Okay, and then the next slide, Joy. So trust also happens in the animal kingdom. Why doesn't this adult lion eat that lovely little lunch meal there? Well, it doesn't, because she knows that her job, this is the mummy, she knows that her job is to look after her infant. So part of the attachment and parental bonding system means I also, as a parent, I have these innate parental drives in my brain to respond to my infant or my toddler, my child's attachment behaviors in such a way as to keep my child safe and to meet my child's needs. That's why she doesn't eat that little guy, because her job, her instincts, midbrain, we call them instincts in animals. Humans, we don't like to say that we have instincts, but we do. So our parental instincts means that this adult mother lion isn't going to eat her baby, and when she's hungry, she will go look for food and she won't eat him. And we're also seeing trust. This tiny cub knows that he can reach up. Maybe he's being playful, maybe he's being needy, and get attention from this mother without risk of being harmed. So in the animal kingdom, and including humans, this attachment, bonding, reciprocal interaction means that the parental behavior and parenting behavior, caregiving behavior, is being elicited by the behavior of the infant and also the parental behavior. So if the infant doesn't demonstrate any attachment behavior, it probably means it's dead or very sick. And what will happen in the animal kingdom is very quickly the mother will walk away and not spend a week or a month or a longer period of time than that trying to revive or look after a very sick infant, because she's better off trying to rebreed and have another litter of cubs. So the attachment behavior of the infant really keeps the parent going. And so we're going to talk about that, and I want you to really think about that for what happens when your child doesn't demonstrate normal attachment behaviors towards the parent. How does that affect the parent's ability to respond in a reciprocal way with normal, typical parenting behavior when the attachment behavior isn't the same as what it should be in that environment? So next slide, please, Joy. Okay, so I want to talk now about the outcomes of having a secure attachment. Okay, so this is, my family does know that I'm using all these pictures, and they have seen the presentation and they have given permission. So it's hard to get really, really intimate pictures of children and parents together. So I do that with my family. And so again, this is my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, my grandson. Although she's auntie to my granddaughter, that's her son and her niece there. So what we're looking at here is, I want you to see, first of all, the infant, William. William there is, although he was kind of a sick baby, right there he's looking very calm, he's looking very happy, he's in his mother's lap, he's with a cousin that he knows, and he is really relaxed. He's just very, very relaxed there. You can see that his mom is very happy to be in this state with her little boy there and her niece tucked under. You can see too, my little niece has got a bit of a put-on smile for the camera, so it's hard to judge her face there, so we're not really going to worry about that too much. But very quickly kids learn to put on a smile for the camera. So what we're really thinking about is the infant feeling very comfortable, very warm, very secure, very comfortable in the arms of his mother, and that he in fact can take that for granted. And it's the taking it for granted that really matters. That's kind of an odd expression. I don't really know what it means, but it's that I kind of refer to it as the air that I breathe. When I think about my attachment with my mother, I know where she is. I know what she's doing, more or less. When she leaves the country, as when I was an adult and she would leave the country, then I would miss her. Even though I wasn't living with her, I would miss her knowing that she was out of the country on a holiday or something. And when she got back, even though we're not living in the same town, even, that was a little bit more, everything's fine. And so I sort of refer to it as the air that I breathe. It's part of my existence, but I don't have to pay attention to it, right? It's always there. It's always knowing that your parent is there for you, always knowing that you are loved unconditionally. Whether you make a mistake, fall down, do something wrong, it doesn't matter. That unconditional positive regard from your parent will be there no matter what. And that you actually don't even have to think about it. So that's why I call it the air that I breathe. And so what children learn is that when they experience these thousands and thousands of repetitions of an attachment behavior, like crying, reaching, calling out, and as they get older, it turns into things like texting, but reaching out, that there's a response and that the need is met. And that means that you are worthy of the love that you're receiving. And that you feel loved and lovable, and that in fact that you're effective. It also speaks to developing a really good sense of cause and effect. So when a baby starts to get, let's say, hungry, and starts, wakes up from a nap, is hungry. Let's say the infant is 8 months old. William there is probably a little bit younger than that. No, actually, he was probably about 8 months old there. So thinking about waking up from a nap, and the first thing that a baby does is start to make some noises, start to make some crying, because what they're doing is saying, I'm awake now, come and get me. But they also might be hungry. They also might need to have a diaper change. So the parent comes in pretty quickly, oh, hello, William, and picks up the child and says, oh, let's get your diaper changed. And there's this interaction that's going on. So William is learning very quickly. I wake up, I call, I get my mother, who I wanted to see, or my father, whom I wanted to see. I'm going to get my diaper changed and I'm going to get fed. And all because I can make this happen in my life. And children are very, at this time of their life, very egocentric or very, very self-centered. And they really think that the world revolves around them because they can't see from other people's perspective yet. And so they think that what they do is causing everything that they do and everything that happens around them. And usually in a healthy attachment system, what they're making happen around them is good things, and they're getting their needs met. And so children end up feeling that they're effective, and that they have a level of competency that leads to an overall sense of well-being, an overall sense of a good sense of self, right? That I'm okay, and mostly it means that I matter. And I think that of all the things that children lose when they don't have a really healthy attachment system is the sense that they matter. And I think that you might look into the literature and discover that most people who commit horrific crimes might be because that they had a sense of not mattering, if that's a word, and that they didn't matter, and they didn't matter to anyone in particular, and so they have nothing to lose. When someone doesn't matter to anyone else, they have nothing to lose. And I think that is one of the deepest harms that can happen to a human being, because we are social beings. We need to matter. And just a side thought on that is that we've now discovered that they're going to add, in terms of basic needs in life, going to add purpose to that. So we have food, water, sex, attachment, and a sense of purpose. So we're going to add a sense of purpose, and a purpose. The only way that you can feel that you have purpose is that your purpose matters, and your purpose can only matter if you matter to other people. And I think that this is the real basis of healthy human development, is this sense of I'm lovable, I'm worthy of love, I'm an effective person in the world, and I matter. And so these are the outcomes, the beginning of the outcomes. The next few slides are going to talk about some more outcomes. So the next slide, please, Joy. So the last slide was what the child learns about themselves. Okay, this slide we're going to talk about what the child learns about with respect to other people. So here we have a scene happening. This is my daughter-in-law and my granddaughter, and she's a bit fussy about having her sunscreen put on. And so there's this conversation that often happens with a little testy 3-year-old about sunscreen that some of you might have experienced, that no, I don't want it on, no, I'm going to do it myself. And of course we know that sunscreen is really important, and that we have to make sure that it goes on properly. So we're having this little battle, but it's actually pretty hard to tell that there's a battle going on there, because my daughter-in-law's face is very calm. She's not frustrated. You can see calmness, you can see patience there, you can see that she's waiting while my granddaughter is exploring with the sunscreen there. And so this little struggle that my granddaughter is having is happening in the context of safe containment. And so what she's learning there is that when I'm having a bit of a struggle and I'm pushing back against what's happening around me, even though it's hard for me, my parent's going to guide me through it safely, and in a way that my parent isn't getting angry with me, and it's in a way that's going to help me with my feelings to be calm and to get through it, as opposed to my parent getting angry and upset and being hurtful to me. So what children learn in this by parental response to their attachment behavior is they learn about the caregiver. So parental bonding behavior determines the child's deep understanding of the trustworthiness of other human beings, because the parents are, generally speaking, the first people that the child is really interacting with on a very consistent basis. So the child is learning when the attachment and bonding system is working well, which it does about 60 to 65% of the time. The child is learning that my parent is trustworthy, that my parent is available to meet my needs, and that when my needs must be met, they are getting met, and they're getting met in an accurate way. So when I'm hungry, I'm getting fed. When I'm hot, I'm getting cooled down. When I'm tired, I'm getting put to bed. When I need to play, I get to play and have stimulation and fun. And when that gets to be too much, then it gets toned down again, and I get an opportunity to rest or take a break. So now we're seeing the importance of the parent really reading and responding to the cues of the child, and the child feeling like not only like I matter, but that I can rely on my parent. So that when I need my parent's there, and I can rely on my parent. And that when I have an upset, when I'm maybe not being such a sweetheart, that even then I can approach my parent, and my parent is going to respond in a way that's really helpful and continue to make me feel that I'm loved and worthy, even though I might be having a bit of a struggle. So that's why I really like this picture, because there was a bit of a struggle, but it's actually really hard to see because my daughter-in-law is very calm and patient, and going through the process of sunscreen that we had to do every day during camp. Okay, so next slide. So the third thing that kids learn, they learn about themselves through the attachment process. And when I say learn, I wish there was another word, because learn sounds very cognitive, and it sounds very much like your prefrontal cortex, which is up here behind your forehead. It sounds like you've learned something. I'd really rather say that the brain has been wired in such a way that is learning in a certain way, but it's learning in all parts of the brain. So, we right now, I'm very much in my prefrontal cortex because I'm thinking hard. My prefrontal cortex is working very hard. And I don't have to have a lot of emotions, but actually I'm looking at the people that matter to me most in my world. So it does trigger emotions, and that's what it's all about. It's about connecting this part of my brain, my thinking part of my brain, with my feeling part of my brain, and making them work well together. And that's what happens during the attachment process, is the upper brain works well with the midbrain, and they connect well with each other all the way down the brainstem, so that we can modulate even our own sensory systems too, so that they're not overreactive. But so we learn about ourselves, or we become knowing that we matter. Maybe that's a better way of saying learning. We become, and we become deeply knowledgeable, that it becomes kind of bred in the bone. I don't know how else to say these things. We don't have good words for them. That other people are trustworthy, and it's deep in our core. It's not a thought. It's just what we know about the world. It's like the air we breathe. If we take the air away, we'll pay attention to it. But the air is around us, so we don't have to think about it. It is just there. It is what we take for granted. It becomes what we are. It's the fabric of ourself, as opposed to painting on the fabric. It is the fabric. And the third thing that happens is knowledge about the world, or a sense about the world. So if you grow up and your day-to-day existence is generally happy, your day-to-day existence is generally pain-free, if your day-to-day existence is generally a repetition of needs being felt and needs being met, and your shared and reciprocal experiences of joy are happening on a repeated basis, then what happens after that is that you can use that relationship as a jumping off point to explore the world. And so this is the grandchildren, my granddaughter, and we're creek walking. So here we have 3 kids who are just absolutely, we have a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 6-year-old, and they are really enjoying just walking in the creek and looking for things like crayfish and minnows and tadpoles and frogs and things like that. And so the world has become a very safe place for them. They can go out and do things that lots of kids might be a little bit afraid doing that, and be very, very comfortable to go and explore the world. And so that means that they don't have to think about getting their needs met. They don't have to think about their own survival. They don't have to worry about whether or not they're loved, that they can just simply depend on their attachment system to be there for them as a jumping off point for exploring the world. And therefore, their whole prefrontal cortex is now available for learning. Whereas children who have had a struggle, and we're going to, keep going back and forth because sometimes it's easier to point it out. If you need to worry about where your food is coming from, you don't really care about what's in the creek, right? If you're worried about whether or not your parent is going to come home, you're not going to be out looking for frogs. You're going to be at home waiting for them to show up. If you're worried about whether or not your father is going to strike your mother, then what you're doing is paying attention to moods and facial expressions and positions of adults. You don't care about frogs, right? So by being able to take your basic needs being met, your attachment system has been formed in a secure kind of way, then you're available to go out there and explore the world and learn to your optimal potential. So this is where we want to get to, and these are the core child outcomes of a secure attachment relationship with the parent. So can we just go to the next slide? And so I don't know, I'm just going to move my they're at the top. That's better. So one of the things that I want to now talk about is that those things that I just talked about, the self, parents and caregivers and the world, that's what John Bowlby calls an internal working model, and they are very, very basic to the person. That is how your personhood is formed. But then as time goes on, there are many more capacities that come out of the secure attachment system because the child doesn't have to worry about any of those other things, right? So those things are now taken for granted. I'm lovable. The parents, the people around me, the adults around me are trustworthy. The world is a safe place. I can take all of those for granted. Now I can move on and start developing some more higher functioning, higher order capacities. So just looking into this face of my grandson here, shining out love, shining out exuberance for life, shining out, he's next to my dog there, feeling safe with a predatory animal, a creature that could sort of bite his head off, although she looks a bit small there, she's not. And so he's feeling very safe, he's feeling very connected, he's feeling that the world is a safe place. And so what he has developed is a capacity to trust in himself, trust in others, trust things, trust authority, which is great because, it's wonderful to say, we have laws. And so if I follow the laws, I can trust that the laws are effective and keep everybody safe. So I can trust that it's a good thing to follow them. This trust in things of like a higher authority is a very, very important capacity for human beings to live together in a really social relationship. We're very social beings. We live in very big communities. Millions of people live together in very small spaces. And so in lots of ways, we have to trust that certain things are going to work so that we can be and feel safe day to day to day. The other thing that we learn is we learn to regulate our emotions. So if mostly we grew up through our first, 1 to 2 years, mostly in a positive affective state, mostly happy, mostly day to day to day, we are experiencing positive emotions. We're calm, joyful, happy, excited, anticipating something positive happening. If we can do this day to day to day, then those structures in our brain that are about positive emotions are growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and more capacity and more detailed. The word is not coming to my mind, but intricate. Whereas if we're growing up day to day to day with fear and pain and shame, those parts of our brain are growing and growing and growing and becoming more salient, more stronger than other parts of the brain, right? So when we grow these positive emotional states, we grow the positive aspects, emotional aspects of the brain too. And what we practice, and they keep saying this, it's sort of the analogy, you exercise your brain like a muscle and it grows. It's kind of like that, right? So more positive emotion, we have the emotional parts of our positive emotional parts of our brain are stronger. And so when we can control our own emotions, then we can control our own behavior a little bit better. And the other part of controlling our behavior is that because we trust the adults that we that help to raise us, that what we do is we can hear their words. So lots of times that children regulate themselves by actually hearing the words in their mind that their parents might have said to them. It's okay. And they might even begin to say to themselves. So you see that even with little children comforting other children, they're saying exactly the same words that have been said to them millions of times. And so they can pull on those memories, pull on those experiences to hear the parents' experience, to recall their experience with their parent and use it even in the absence of their parents. That's attachment, is that the parent is in you even when the parent isn't present. And that's what's really, really important about attachment, is that it becomes part of you even when your parent is absent. And that's why, the lovely book, The Invisible String, the string goes a long way, but apparently my string gets a little bit anxious when my mother is out of the country, and not at all when she's just at her home. So the string stretches a little bit when she's out of the country, even as an adult. And, there's lots of reasons for that, like, traveling and all that stuff, but just the heightened awareness of safety and that sort of thing. But, that internalization is what the attachment is all about. And that's why I like this picture, because I think it is very emblematic of a child just experiencing joy and safety and care and love and comfort. And so the shared joy, that's what's building. Children don't experience joy just by themselves. The joy is the amplitude of the joy. It's magnified by that shared experience with a person that they love. So now it's not just the mother and the father. Now it's the parents, it's the grandparents, it's the cousins, it's the friends, it's the aunts and uncles. So now they're starting to kind of build a social repertoire of being able to go to junior kindergarten and make a friend and build something in the sand together and really share that and really experience it, and come home from that experience thinking that was wonderful and wanting to share that experience again with their parent. So that sharing of joy. What I look for is their ability to seek comfort and seek help, and not only seek it but accept it. So when we're looking at attachment behavior with new parents, this is one of the things that we're really kind of looking at. How well does the child seek and accept your comfort? And that is a very big struggle. And if your child doesn't seek or accept your comfort, then it's very, very hard on a parent's bonding system. My parental bonding system in my midbrain expects you to come to me, seek comfort, and when I give it, that you accept it, and we come together and we're forming this intimate, close bond. But if what happens is that you need something and you need comfort, and I'm trying to offer it and it's not accepted, then the whole system starts to fail and it gets weakened, and we have to really support it. So children who are securely attached, they seek and accept comfort from their parents, and they seek and accept help for whatever they need, including homework. Like when we're talking about a kid in grade 8, I'm stuck with this problem on my homework, Mom, or can you help me with that? Or Dad, can you help me with that? And then when you help them, they actually let you help them. And that's a sign of real security. So the other outcome that's hugely important is the ability to engage in empathy. So kids learn who they are in the first instance by seeing their themselves reflected in the face of their parent. So the face-to-face interaction with the parent is how you learn who you are and how you matter. And so this reciprocity with the parent is how children learn to be empathic and learn to have empathy and feeling for others, which is what empathy is. They also learn to think about themselves because they see themselves reflected by their parents, and they learn to think about what their parents are thinking about. And then this translates into other people. And so all of these things are the ways in which human beings interact really well with each other, is by being empathic, being able to self-reflect on how we're doing, and to think about what other people are thinking about. And the last thing that allows us to do is to take some risks. You know, sometimes we have to take some risks. So could we have the next slide there, Joy? So just risk taking here. Here we are in Florida. You know, my grandson is seeing the ocean for the first time. It's enticing, but it's also really scary. Those waves are starting to crash in, you know. So he's able to explore the world and take a little bit of risk while he's holding on to his mom's hand. And so that's her offering help and him seeking comfort, right? It's right there. And here in the other picture, here we have him sailing off he really learned to swim on this one vacation, really just jumping off the edge of the pool, flying into the pool into his mom's arms. Now, within, you know, a few of those trials, he's able to do it without jumping into mom's arms. So these are the ability to explore the world and take a risk to really enjoy all of what the world has to offer by being able to modulate your own fear and take a risk through the comfort and assistance and help of your parents. Okay, can we have the next slide? And when it all goes wrong. So this is not my grandchild. This is a picture off the internet. And this is a child in high distress. High distress. So you remember the picture of my son's face on the couch beside the dog, my grandson's face. And the picture of this child's face. This is agony. This is high distress. This child is in such distress. And we know it's not temporary because the child is really quite dirty. Right? So you know, I don't think that this child is just having a one-off occasion of distress. And so what happens when the caregiving system fails the child? The child does not learn to trust. So the child is either in a state of no trust or distrust or mistrust. So mistrusting is trusting the wrong things, right? Or distrusting is being wary. Or no trust is having no trust at all. So if you don't trust, what happens is you become pathologically self-reliant. And you don't rely on people. You don't seek comfort from other people. You don't go to other people for help. And the other thing that happens is that you can see the level of distress in this child. And so if she experiences this level of distress often, she is going to be in this state often. Those parts of her brain are going to become strengthened and strengthened and strengthened, and they're going to outweigh or outcompete with the positive emotional aspects of the brain, and she's going to have a negative emotional bias in her brain. And also she's in a high state of distress, so her body is going to get used to being in this high state of distress, and that's going to become the norm for her or him. I'm not sure which for this child. And so then we get this tendency to have negative emotions, and we have a tendency to be fearful and avoidant and not exploring the world. So next slide. So the real message is that what was broken in a relationship can only be mended in a relationship. And it is the relationship that heals. So we're not going to think about how do we change a child's behavior. If a child has early trauma in the caregiving relationship, if the child could be diagnosed with developmental trauma if it was a diagnosis. It's not a diagnosis, but it's the best term that describes the children that we're parenting sometimes. If that child was harmed in a relationship, it can only be mended in a relationship. And it is by the repetition of those kinds of things that we were talking about in the healthy development of attachment, the thousands of repetitions. It is the relationship that heals that developmental trauma. It is the new relationship or a repaired relationship that allows the attachment system to repair, to work towards more attachment security, which means less anxiety, less avoidance of intimacy, and that it's the relationship that heals. We cannot change attachment through changing behavior. We can only change attachment by the child experiencing a new relationship. And so, you know, we don't want to get stuck on how having children have their behavior changed through behavior mechanisms, behavior modification mechanisms, or cognitive behavior strategies, because it won't work. That only deals with up here. Attachment is a midbrain process. bonding is a mid-brain process, and this is where we need to work. So that's why this whole webinar was with pictures, not with words, because I don't want to address up here. I want to really address in here. I want you to imagine the images. The child jumping into the pool, how hard that is for some kids who don't trust anyone. They couldn't jump into the arms of anyone. So we've kind of really talked a lot about, I've talked a lot, and I want to stop talking. I want to have a conversation now. So Joy, is the next slide about what we're going to do next? Yeah. So what we're going to talk about next, just so you know, so we can kind of focus today a little bit on the real mechanisms of attachment. Next time we're going to talk about parenting to enhance secure attachment. So your child is demonstrating maladaptive in this relationship, but it was adaptive in the previous relationship, but maladaptive now, maladaptive attachment behaviors, and ergo lots of things like poor empathy and poor emotional regulation, poor behavior regulation, poor arousal regulation. So how do we parent to enhance their attachment security and resolve some of those issues? And then 3, when it's a real big struggle, how do we use therapy? What supports do we need? When do we know? What do we do when we think we need a therapist, and what are the therapeutic resources out there? So we're going to talk about those 2 things in the next 2 webinars because they're huge topics. So right now I kind of really want to open it up and have a conversation. And I'm hoping that you have questions and comments. If you're going to talk about your child, just say my 6-year-old daughter who came to us when she was 2, things like that. Okay?
Absolutely. That was amazing, Mary Jo. Absolutely. Let's see if we hear or if we see from any.
Give folks a minute to type here, put their thoughts together.
Yeah. I know, I'll just jump in. One of the more common topics that have been brought up for the adoptive parents community on our Adopt4Life Facebook group is when we notice that a child attaches faster, sooner, or stronger to one parent over another. So that's probably going to be more into part 2, but I was wondering if we can just maybe have a discussion on it, just because I know that it was a reoccurring theme. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or.
Oh, yes. So when the attachment system isn't very strong, and so when kids are coming from, let's say kids are coming from an international adoption from group care, orphanage care, or if they're coming from, a domestic adoption from the child welfare system, or, kinship care that is because of trauma and loss. When the attachment system is then taken away, so whatever attachment system there was, and we're now in a second attachment environment. So the adoptive family might be the second attachment environment. It might be the 3rd, 4th, 5th. So what happens is that every time that child leaves the primary or first experience of attachment, even if that's as an infant, because that child did know their mother very, very well after having developed in her body, and to lose that is still significant even at birth. To go into a secondary attachment system, the attachment system is really going to struggle for quite some time, and it is more than twice the work to do 2 at a time. So kids tend to need to develop one attachment first and then the second attachment second. It is so hard for them to I don't know, I'm trying to think of a really good analogy, but if you transplanted a tree, the bigger the tree, the older that you transplant it, the harder it is to reestablish its roots. So before you're going to ask it to bear a lot of fruit and work for you and do a lot of different things, you're just going to try to reestablish it and make sure that it lives, right? So this child that's been transplanted more or less, it's got to focus on survival. And survival just means one attachment. Survival means one person, one adult is going to meet my needs. I'm focusing on just surviving. So that, like the tree, I've got to get through this first year. I've got to make sure that I get my roots connected to the soil. I've got to make sure I can take in nutrients. And I've got to make sure that I have enough to last me until next year, when I can start to maybe bear some fruit and do some different things. But I don't know whether that's the best analogy or not, but that first year, especially the first year, is all about survival. And that was our very first slide. It's all about survival. And so survival means one attachment system.
Absolutely. And then in turn, it's all about surviving as a parent.
Yeah, it is. And that's we're going to really talk about that in number 3, right? Because sometimes it does feel like my child doesn't like me. Never mind love me. My child doesn't even like me. And my child is becoming unlikable. And now what do I do, right? So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about that deeper struggle in part 3.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So I'm hoping that people have some comments. Like, what did you think about that? Like, what did you think about the way we form attachment? So I'd love to hear people's comments about it and what they're seeing in terms of, or maybe any light bulbs that came off when you think about your own children.
Yeah. I see a raised hand. Okay, do we have anything else to disappear? Oh, I see. Okay.
So did you see that?
Trying to talk.
Oh, sorry, Heidi.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You want to type?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I think typing, I don't know that, can the participants talk? I think they can just type their questions in. Is that right? Or
yeah, so we have you guys all muted. I apologize. I should have said something. So all of you are muted. So if you can type in your questions, if you do need to or prefer to speak for whatever reasons, just let us know and we're able to give you that access as well. Oh, I do see one question, Joy.
Okay.
Under the Q&A, I don't know if you want to get that one.
Q&A. All right, I'll just bring my panel down here. Okay, so we've got someone here. Yeah, kind of a comment. Wonderful presentation. Thank you. Love the notion of taking it for granted and having the bond like the air we breathe. That is how I felt in my parental relationship, and we hope to instill that in our son. Yeah.
And of course, it takes time, right?
Yeah.
So I think about if your child came to you when your child was 7, I think you get to the air we breathe maybe when they're 14. I think it takes as long as they weren't with you.
Yeah.
Oh, child is 7, we adopted 4. Yeah, okay.
Okay. We have here, now we've got a couple other questions coming in. So one person is asking, we adopted our son at the age of 21 months, 3.5 years ago. His sleep is extremely disordered. Mm-hmm. He's scared we won't be there. We parent in a connected way. We are very responsive to his needs, but his sleep issues seem to be worsening. How long should this go on for?
You know, we're going to talk about lots of these different struggles, but a child who, and he came to you at 21 months, so that tells me that there was a long period with other caregivers, and I don't know how many there were, don't know how unsafe that child was. But a child who has sleep difficulties probably has a pretty high arousal level, and it probably means that their heart rate is, even their resting heart rate is probably high. And so that tells us that the child is almost in a state of chronic hypervigilance. and they're too afraid to go to sleep. One, because their attachment system might leave, which all other attachment systems prior to you have left. So that's the truth. And so why wouldn't you leave? All the other ones have left. And so he's now, Joy, did that person say that the child is now 3 or has been there 3 years?
It's been 3.5 years. Yeah,
the child has been there 3.5 years. So at this stage now, the child is old enough now to start adding in cognitive fears and worries, right? So thinking about, of course, 4 and 5-year-olds are typically afraid of the dark and typically uneasy about being left alone to sleep. That's normal. Then you add on all of the other stuff. So I think that children by the age of 8, I know it's a long time to go through disturbed sleep. Children by the age of 8 really should be sleeping through the night and not coming into parents' rooms. Up until that time, I think it's kind of normal to have some sleep, waking and seeking of parents up until about the age of 8. But this little guy is really probably quite scared of identifying it as fear that the parents are going to leave. I think that just means lots and lots of talking about it, lots of things that maybe are addressing the arousal level. So maybe checking the child's resting heart rate, maybe finding ways of helping the child be really calm, maybe doing lots and lots of rocking. Children who had sort of a pathological beginning often didn't have close contact and rocking to go to sleep, and they don't actually know how to soothe their bodies and calm their minds as they go into a sleep state. So there probably needs to be lots of rocking to help that body re-regulate, lots of physical exercise, and I connected parenting, I get that, but I wouldn't have any trouble in staying with the child while the child's sleeping, having, I don't know how many other children are in the home or how disturbed the child's sleep is through the night, but having that child close by, really close by while sleeping, it could be really important. If the child has a separate bedroom and is coming into the parent's bedroom, just having a place on the floor beside the parent. If parents are not able to get a good enough sleep, if the children are getting into bed, then really just having a sleeping spot on the side, a nice comfy nest. Sometimes even a little tent, like kids like to be contained. Some kids really respond to having their own little sleeping tent right beside the parent's bed. And so if they get up, they can come in and go right into their little tent, or they can at least have this sleeping space where they can reach up and hold a parent's hand while they go back to sleep. They just simply need that connection and don't need it for quite a long time. And it's a very scary thing to have your attachment system disappear. So that's about survival, right? If the attachment system disappears, human infants die. It's about survival. So he's really making sure that you don't disappear. A story like The Invisible String is really nice, and that's to help recognize that we're connected even when we can't see each other. So that's a nice story that might be good to read.
Yeah, that's all great advice, and I can certainly attest to some of those strategies that we've tried that have been really helpful at our house too. We have lots more questions coming in, so we'll see if we can move through some of these. When you discussed children accepting or not accepting help, that was really a helpful reminder. That's where we're at. Child is 7. We adopted at 14 months from CAS, and we have many adoption challenges. So a comment there. Yeah, it's good to get those reminders every now and then too, eh? Sometimes it's stuff that we know, but you can lose sight of it easily, or just to hear someone else affirm and validate the experience, for sure.
So we have to remember that developmentally, children have to become dependent before they become not independent, but interdependent. We are looking to have our children become interdependent with us and continue that interdependence right through their whole lifetime. Because frankly, we're going to need them when we're 95. So we're really looking for that interdependence and of course being able to fledge off and live their own life too. But so at 7 years old, we're sort of thinking a child should be independent on a lot of tasks. But actually, sometimes it's really helpful to go back and just assist on some things that they'll let us do even though they can do them. And to find out that we can help on things that aren't a challenge, and then help on things that are more of a challenge. So sometimes asking your child to help you too is sometimes a way to get to the idea that helping each other can be reciprocal and fun. Dancing together while you're doing the dishes, fun stuff like that.
Yeah, great. Okay, we've got a bunch more here.
These are great.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Is it normal for all adoptive children to have some attachment issues? I feel a strong bond with my 5-year-old son adopted at 8 months of age, but your insightful presentation makes me wonder if there's more work to do.
So, the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that lots of times if kids had a fairly good start, if they didn't experience a lot of trauma, adopting at 8 months, then that child may have still been in the stage of an easier transfer from one attachment system to another. So if the child was in foster care, for instance, for the first 8 months and not in a pathological environment, and then there was a good transition, and then this child has accepted the parents as an attachment figure and the attachment behaviors are there, then that's really great. Then what we might see is more towards age 6 or 7, the real deep understanding of, I'm adopted, most kids in my class are not, I'm a bit different, and somewhere out there there's another family that I could belong to. So then we might see that there's adoption issues that come up, and adoption issues are different than attachment issues. And so we are always thinking in terms of the biology of the child, what are they coming to us with in terms of genetics, in terms of prenatal exposures to whatever, what is the biological makeup of the child, what is the temperamental makeup of the child, which is not as changeable, like temperament is pretty genetic, and like outgoing or more reticent, that's very genetic, shy, not shy. And then what is the attachment system contributing to what we're seeing? What is the trauma that the child has experienced? And then what are the adoption issues? And so we kind of look at it in those 4 stages and how they all interact.
Good. Okay, a couple more questions, and we've got a couple more comments on the sleep question. One person saying that answer was helpful around sleep, that this person's son came to live with them at 8 days old and is almost 7, and they believe he's got a strong attachment, but he's always had major sleep issues, needing hugs to fall asleep, afraid of them leaving him and not coming back. So she said, the parent says, I'm so happy you said it's okay to keep giving him what he needs. And another parent said, we had a huge dog bed for our daughter, only for her when she was little, in order for her to sleep in their room. So there's one strategy that's affordable and easy to implement. Couple other questions here. One, our 5-year-old daughter shows resistance to attaching to me, the mom, and will sometimes try correcting me, proving me wrong, and pointedly rejecting me. I think this comes from a fear of losing another mom and defending her heart. Does this sound likely? We're very eager to find ways to improve the relationship and her attachment to me. She's been with us for 1 year.
So 1 year is a very short time for a 5-year-old, right? And so what we're seeing with that rejecting and that correcting is we're seeing some what I'm going to call pathological, but I mean that's pretty strong use of the word. Pathological self-reliance. She's being too self-reliant, right? She needs to be more dependent. So we're going to find ways of like lots of times you're just going to recognize what's happening but not try to change the behavior, because we're understanding the reason, the meaning underneath the behavior, the why and how the behavior develops. So we as adults need to understand that and see it, and then we need to be smart about it and say, okay, there needs to be lots of other times when I'm going to help my daughter be more dependent. So doing things like playing in the bath, Lots of 5-year-olds can have their own bath. They probably can't wash their hair. So it might be that washing her hair is a struggle, or maybe it isn't. So let's say in this case it isn't. She's telling their mother exactly how to set the table, but mom's able to wash her hair, so that you're doing some kind of really nurturing, and you're making that very joyful, where you're helping and nurturing, and you bring in lots of joy. So the child is experiencing in a different context than the one that she's really poking at, that how lovely it is to be nurtured and to share that joy. And so we're going to build that up in any other context that we can. And then we're probably just going to, I like Dan Hughes's way of parenting. It's pace, playful, accepting, curious, and empathic. And sometimes you can be playful. Oh my goodness, there you are telling me what to do again. I know it must be so hard for you to be told what to do by me sometimes. And sometimes you want to, tell me what to do. And that's accepting. It's sometimes a little playful, sometimes a little, accepting of the child. Yeah, it's so hard. That's the empathy part, right? And so we're not really saying, don't do that. That's bad. I don't like it. That's rude. You're disrespecting me. You're just kind of going with the child's experience of it and recognizing it and hearing it and putting words to it. And we'd really love it if the child would say, it's really hard for me when you tell me what to do, because I can't trust you, because I don't know if you love me, because I don't know if I matter. Right? We need to hear all of those things, but obviously the child isn't going to say it, right? So that, we're going to talk lots about those kind of parenting things next time. You're muted, Joy.
Sorry, you're muted.
Muted. Sorry about that.
There is.
I realized I was agreeing and going, and making noises, so I muted myself. But okay.
I noticed there was in the a little further up, someone had commented in the chat channel. I don't know if you saw that.
We've got.
When thinking of adoption, there are some signs to tell adoption parents that the child is not attaching and that attachment-based therapy should be sought. Yeah. So thank you for saying this was an excellent webinar. Thank you very much. It matters to me a lot. So when thinking of adoption, what are some signs to tell adoptive parents that the child is not attaching and attachment-based therapy should be sought? So it's all going to depend on the age of the child, right? And it's all going to depend on how many caregivers the child has already had. So a very young child, I love to even do a consult with people as soon as they know the child that they're getting, as soon as they have, and to make sure that they understand their own attachment history, to make sure that they understand about what secure attachment would look like, and that they are rejoicing when they see an attachment behavior and expanding on it, and that when they see avoidance or anxiety, that they're able to not become avoidant or anxious in response to that, but to stay as a secure parent. And so, I think if your child has come to you more than a year ago and you're feeling like it's not happening, I think that's time to get therapy. And I think at any time when you're feeling like, as a parent, one, you're feeling like I don't know what to do next, and I'm getting anxious that I'm losing the helm of this. I talk about parents being the pilot of the plane of the family. The families are like airplanes, and parents need to be the pilot. If you feel like you've lost direction, or that you can't fly the plane safely anymore, that's when you need help.
Good advice. Yeah. Okay. Question here. Our child came in January of this year and was in foster care when he was 10 months, and he's going to be 3 in March. Sometimes when he thinks he has done something wrong, he hits the wall or hits himself. Any thoughts on this?
So he's been in foster care. Sorry, just give me those dates again, because he's little, so it really matters.
Yep. When he was 10 months old, he Sounds like has been in foster care since 10 months old, and he's going to be 3 in March. He was just placed in January of this year, though, so he's only been with them a month or so.
Right. So he was in the family of origin, I guess, for the first 10 months. So that means he had.
Oh, I think we lost Mary Jo.
He has disappeared.
She has the link, so she can join us back on. I'll just keep my eye out for her. So for whoever was posted about their child who does hit themselves, that is something that my son does. He does that. He also breaks his toys. So it's something that's definitely common. So please don't feel that it's just you. Hitting hands on the head, that kind of stuff is definitely something that's very common among a lot of our families. I'm just waiting to see if Mary Jo comes back on. If she does not, if she loses connection, the anonymous poster to this, if you can just private message Joy or myself, and we want to make sure that we get you answered, or get this question answered, because it is definitely an important one. So please, just private message us your name, and we'll be more than happy to get an answer for you as we go. I don't see her on yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the meantime, I don't have any new questions at this point either. But again, Catherine's pointed out in a chat message that you're welcome to get in touch with your parent liaison with Adopt4Life if you want a copy of the webinar to go over again after. Okay, so we've got a contact for that last question.
Oh, perfect. And I'm just trying to read as well for this.
Yep. Some more comments on sleep. Sleep is definitely, I mean, it's such a big issue, right? Because it affects everybody in the family, and you feel for your child and know that they need to get their rest, and you as a parent need to have restorative sleep as well in order to recharge and be fully present for the next day. And yeah, I mean, it's just such an integral part of self-care and caring for someone else, I think, to know that everyone's getting good sleep.
Absolutely.
So yeah, lots of great suggestions again, mattresses and
Sorry about that.
all
Oh,
that.
that's okay, Mary Jo. 1 second. So Joy, if you are able to make Mary,
I'm back. Sorry about that. My
heading out a bit. So in order to see Mary Jo's video,
Yes.
Joy, if you can just make her a host, and then she'll be able to open up her video.
Okay, I think I've done that. So
Okay. And Mary Jo, if you are able to start, and if this is just going to be a technical problem, then that's just a part of life.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Sorry. My computer wasn't actually all the way plugged in, and it just died. It didn't give me a warning that it was going to die. And I'm still trying to start my video. And Joy, somebody needs to do something. It keeps telling me I can't start it.
Okay, I keep clicking make host, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
Anyway, so I just wanted to finish that thought that child had another attachment system that was probably not okay, because the child was removed when the child was 10 months old. So it seems to me that the child has lots of negative affect, and then the foster system, it's important to know how good the care was in the foster care system, and how many placements there were, and then the child has kind of a well of negative affect and poor coping strategies, so that ways that the child is learning to modulate his own feelings is through hitting self or hitting the wall, and that's just going to take a lot of time and a lot of patience, and it's still a very scary time for this child, because this is another new attachment system, so it's really a scary time.
So we are hitting the 9:30 mark, and I do know there are some other questions.
Yeah, I think some comments, someone who's kind of thinking through the sleep issues and going to try some strategies. Sorry, and my screen sharing also stopped for some reason, which
Oh no, that's okay.
I think when I was trying to hit make host, it maybe hit something else. Yeah, another question I had, any thoughts on when the same child just seems to just hug the leg of someone in a store really quickly and runs back to parents? Any thoughts on that?
That's such an interesting behavior, because it's really what I said earlier about how the attachment system is indiscriminate at first. And so basically it's like any port in a storm. I need to survive. I'm trying to find the adult who's going to allow me to survive. These are survival behaviors. So it's not really safe, but if you were, a chimpanzee in a jungle, then one mother might be as good as another, and you might have to check it out, right? So if you don't have one, so you're kind of searching around for somebody who's going to nurture you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And do you want to just maybe take this one last question?
We've got a new one here. Oh, yeah, we do have one more.
And
okay.
Then we can just end it after this one, I guess, just because for time. And then for those of you who do have questions, please write them down, keep them fresh, and then we can absolutely ask them at the next webinar if you want it to be answered by Mary Jo, or feel free to contact us as well, and we can always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so this last one for tonight. I have a 4-year-old boy that we adopted about a year ago, and I found that I have been having difficulty attaching to him due to my history of how I was parented. I had a lack of emotional support as a child. Is there any tips on how to deal with this? My son is very much trying to attach to me. He does like to overplease.
Yeah, so I think one of the best books for people to kind of examine their own attachment history and why they parent in the way that they do is Dan Siegel's book.
Is that Parenting from the Inside Out?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I recommend it all the time. Yes, Parenting from the Inside Out. That's a really great book, and I think it's really important to read that so that you can be aware of your parenting and how it all came about. So I would really suggest that that's the best one.
Mm-hmm. And possibly, that sounds like a topic we could explore further in one of our future ones, because that's an important one too. Doesn't get talked about quite as much, and not as much information out there. So good question. Okay, there we are for this evening. So again, as Catherine said, feel free to be in touch anytime, and once we have dates for the next 2 in the series, we will definitely put them out there and hope to have you join us again. Thanks so much.
So I was just going to say that if people have unanswered questions, I see there's still 3 in the Q&A, then they can be forwarded. I'll answer them by email if you like.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you very much, Mary Jo. I know it's going to be helpful for a lot of families who I'm sure were hesitant to post as well, or who posted and just didn't. So if you want to get in contact with Mary Jo, please feel free to, you can either email Joy or myself, or I guess Mary Jo directly. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good night, everyone. Take care. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.